Welcome to Your Story Matters. My name is Linda Olson. I'm the founder of Wealth Through Stories and Your Story Matters Masterclass. I'm excited to introduce to you another very special guest, Lindsey Castleman. Lindsey, married to her high school sweetheart, experienced the healing of counseling in her own marriage. That early marriage experience propelled Lindsey to pursue counseling and is now thrilled to walk with couples and individuals through their relationship journeys. Lindsey is also the co-creator of the Marriage Intensive Created for Connection, 7 Conversations to Enrich Your Marriage, a weekend workshop that helps couples connect and have meaningful conversations like never before. In addition to counseling, Lindsey also helps others grow their platform and message through live events. She's worked on events for Dave Ramsey, Beth Moore, Amy Porterfield, Beth McCord, Natalie Grant, and more. Welcome, Lindsey, to Your Story Matters.
Hi, Linda. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, my pleasure. I'm thrilled that you can join us. And I know that anybody who is in the field, one, of counseling couples, as well as the event planner that you are, I know that you've walked a significant journey to get there. Tell us a little bit about your story.
Yeah, sure. I started, it's kind of one of those like, how far back do I go? But with particularly both counseling and events, after college, I started working at the YMCA, and at the YMCA was able to work for Restore Ministries, and Restore Ministries really helped people understand what was going on within them, mind, body, and spirit. And that was new because usually the YMCA just focuses on body, but Restore wanted to bring in mind, body, and spirit together. So I was brought in to do marketing because that's what my degree is in, public relations and marketing. And I had very little compassion, just for people in their struggles. My perception was always, well, just pull yourself up by your bootstraps, just make it happen. And the more that I got into knowing people who came through Restore, as I'm saying that, I'm like, why did they hire me? I don't even know why they hired me, but maybe they saw something in me I didn't see then. But as I got to know people, got to know their stories, started to see where they came from, finding out that there's so much more to who they are than just what you see initially. And even people who are in addiction, in any sort of strongholds, there's so much more to their story than just that addiction, that stronghold. And when you start to uncover that in people, you start to see them in a whole new light. And so that was huge for me. And so it was like I was going on this path. It was like God was taking me on this twofold path of I'm learning how to do these events and learning how to do them really well and enjoying them, but at the same time uncovering more of who I'm created to be, more of who God has called all of us to be, and started to go to school for my master's in marriage and family therapy. So I'm like creating events that I feel like, and having the privilege to work on events that are phenomenal, and they send such great messages to people, and that's helping cash flow me going to school at the same time. So it's kind of like I've always been on these two different paths, and I've been so thankful to see even how they intersect, even with our marriage conference, of being able to take what I know about events and then take what I know just about who we are, how we connect to people, and being able to put that together. So that's been something really exciting. And then I've had people ask me to do more events for them, which has been great. And I've learned so much. Like every event that I have been able to work on has been also able to help my counseling practice. So I've just been thankful that I've been able to go both journeys at the same time.
Wow, that's very interesting to take those two journeys and bring them together and how they feed one another. Good for you.
Well, I'm thankful for him. It's been fun because it feels like it feeds, with counseling, you are one-on-one with somebody. You're really in their story. You're really helping them understand what's happening and then watching their story unfold and even being able to create a new story, a different story. But you're like in one room. And so the extrovert in me kind of needs both, because I also need to be able to go out and see how helping people spread their message can also help people individually. I love being at events and hearing, why are people there? Like, what brought them there? What are they hoping to see? What are they hoping to experience? And knowing that what we're putting on is going to meet that need for them. So it's been cool.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, doing the events as you work with meeting planners,
Mm-hmm.
well as, is usually, I'm sure, a big team. Of course, the bigger the event, the bigger the team.
Right.
Most
Yes.
of the time.
Mm-hmm.
But they have an opportunity to get to know you and to work with you.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm sure if they find out the other skill that you have in counseling, if they themselves don't need it, I'm sure they know somebody who does.
Right.
So that's wonderful.
They're either thankful for it or they like run from it. They're like, oh no, don't, take me through therapy. It's funny because sometimes you have to turn that off, especially even within my household. The other day I was I was telling my husband, I was like, now it takes 60% more energy to self-regulate than to co-regulate, and he just rolls his eyes. He's just like, oh my goodness.
Take off your counseling hat.
I know.
Oh, so what was, as you go through, even as you look back through this journey of two, specific pathways, what would you say would be the most difficult transition or pain point for you?
There's two that come to mind quickly for me, and one is a little bit what I alluded to before, where I mean, just not having that compassion for people, and then starting to kind of feel like it's painful. It feels like when you start to go through something where you realize you're wrong, you're wrong. This is actually not the way that God views people. It's like his loving kindness is what draws us to him, and those are things for me to embody, and how to show loving kindness to people and show compassion to people, and to get so in touch with what has gone on within me that I can empathize with what has gone on within other people. That would, it's a good process, but also a painful process. And then also, when I worked at one of the companies that I worked at, where I was working on a pretty big name event, and it was a very sought after place to be in the company. And after working on those events for a while, the whole company just took this financial hit. And so there were like 9 of us that our positions were deleted. And so, going into work one day, kind of having these dreams and these visions for where you want to take these events, what you want to do, how you want to grow these things, and then to learn like all of that is gone. I also started to learn how much my identity was tied up into being able to say, hi, I'm Lindsey, and I work on such and such events. That was, I started to realize how important that had become for me, and how shameful sometimes it was to just say, I'm Lindsey, and I don't, right now I'm searching for a job. And so it was, but at the same time, kind of all the pain can also have some underlying beauty in it, that even though that was painful, there were beautiful things that came out of that, to where, I know I am not my job, like that there's so much more to me than that. And so there was just kind of a different kind of confidence that also grew out of that time. So it was painful, it was hard, but then I can also see beauty that came from it as well.
Tell us a little bit more about that. What was the outcome? What were the other outcomes that you discovered in that process? A lot of times when we're right in it, we just don't see it. It's only when we've created some distance from it and look back and realize that through that painful transition, there were wonderful things that came out of that. Speak to that a little bit.
Yeah. So kind of going through that pain of realizing what little compassion that I had for other people, and I mean, I literally remember talking to a coworker saying to them, I don't know what I'm doing here in this job. Like, I have no idea why I'm here, because I can't identify, with all these people that are coming in here. I'm just like, just stop smoking, just stop drinking, just very rigid in my thought process. And then as I look back, I mean, now I'm in counseling, so just looking back and going, the whole time, it was like God was kind of pruning off these things of me that didn't need to be there and weren't something that showed love to people. And so now for me, like when I'm able to sit with somebody and hear their story, and even for me, a lot of times I will get misty-eyed when they're sharing their story with me, because I can feel that. Like my heart's now more open to feeling with somebody. And I've also seen the power of that, because some people have never been able to have someone sit in their story and feel it with them. And it's powerful to be seen in that way. And so I'm thankful to have been able to have been given that realization, that journey to go on that place, and then fast forward to my job being deleted. Like what ended up happening that next year is there were so many contract jobs that came my way, and they weren't the steady, secure job that I was used to, but contract jobs that came my way, like out of the blue, where I can show point after point after point of how I was cared for in that. And then looking back and going, because I wasn't, doing something full time, like I was able to finish all of our paperwork to adopt. I had the time to do that. I was able to pour a lot into my internship, my counseling internship, because that happened at the same time. And I was worried how I was going to do a job and internship at the same time, and so, I finished our adoption paperwork sooner than we thought. And then it turns out like we were asked by a family to adopt a little boy. And if I hadn't have finished it in that time that we had, we might not have been qualified or able to take him. And he's our son, so you just look back and go, there's so much fruit. There's so much good that actually came from things that were painful.
Oh, I love it. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So how do you use your story now in either the counseling or the event planning or both? How do you use your story?
Yeah, well, counseling is far easier to kind of pinpoint how do we use that story, because I know, a part of my story, I've been hurt, I have grieved, I have, been really angry, I've been betrayed, I've been wrong, just all of these things that have happened in my story, that when people show up with that in their story, I can empathize with them. I can know what it's like and offer that up instead of offering up, oh, it'll get better, or at least this or that. It's like, no, I get it. I get it. I understand. And it's okay to feel those things, but let's also let that emotion move us towards a healing, healthy place at the same time, And then for event work, a lot of with my story, it's been cool of how even, I said previously, the events have spoken into and have all had to do with things that have helped even counseling business and other dreams, that I've had that I'm able to work on and create right now. And that's been cool to see that, but also just to bring in my knowledge, what I know. I've worked on a lot of events, all different kinds, all different, shapes and sizes. So to be able to bring that in and to even be able to say, this will work, this will not work, just trust me on it. Or here's the million mistakes that I have made in doing an event. So let me keep you from making all of those mistakes that I have made. That's been really helpful too, just to kind of go, well, I've learned a lot through mistakes, so let me help you in my story, help you not to make those same mistakes.
Well, and to me, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
It's one of the most powerful ways to use stories, exactly what you're doing, and that is identifying with their pain, very clearly in counseling. But then also with event planning, it's like, okay, I've walked through a painful process to get to this place. I've made the mistakes, and that every event planner, I understand that one of the greatest fears is that no one's going to show up.
Sure.
I mean, that's very frightening.
Yes.
And to know that you can identify with that pain, because I'm sure you've experienced that too. And now say, you know what, with enough experience behind me, I can assure you, if you'll walk with me through this, this can be a very successful event. So that's wonderful.
Yes.
So, Lindsey, I'm sure you have a lot of golden nuggets for us. Can you just share one particular golden nugget with our listeners today?
A big thing for me that I have had to learn is that there are a lot of different parts of me that I used to kind of reject or put aside. Maybe because I felt like it wasn't, I wasn't good enough in this, or, or I've actually, had people say to me, things that were hurtful. And so you start to sometimes take that on as a part of who you are. And what I have learned, and especially I think moving from, 20s into 30s and beyond, is that I find much more joy when I lean into who I'm created to be. And I find much more joy in accepting parts of myself than rejecting parts of myself. And that has been huge for me, because I am, especially when it comes to the event world, I am a lot more like, straight with you, direct, will challenge on things, just because I've done this before. And I'll also in counseling challenge as well. But there have been times, I think, especially as a female, where that has come across as maybe intimidating, to other people, or, just a little bit more sometimes in the South. It's not necessarily the role that a woman should play. And so that has been, for me, that has always been a kind of this inward battle of like, is there something wrong with me? Am I wrong? Am I bad because of this? And just coming to learn more about who I am and who I'm created, that there's nothing wrong with that. That for me, if I'm coming from that place of love and care, and I'm taking ownership and responsibility for how I treat people, But for me to show up and to say, like, yes, I am direct, I am somebody that's going to take charge, and I don't mean to step on toes. I don't, just more of owning that instead of being more timid and afraid of that. So that's kind of the big thing for me, is like going, you know what? I'm going to step into who I'm created to be. And when I do that, I feel so much more free, and I feel so much more confident that even if I do this scary thing and I fail, it's going to be okay, because who I am is not that thing. At least I tried, at least I tried, and I could say that I put myself out there. So kind of several nuggets in there, I guess, but that would be the big thing.
Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Really accepting ownership of who we are.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, two great outcomes of that is freedom and confidence.
Yes.
And those, of course, can be carried into any field.
Yes.
So, Lindsey, I know you have a wonderful gift for our listeners today. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I am actually in the middle of it, so I'm really excited about it. But all of the knowledge that swims around in my head on event planning, because I keep getting requests of people wanting me to help them with their event, that I've decided I'm creating, and I have created, I'm in the middle of it, an online course of how to run your events. Like, you can do it. You can learn from all of my mistakes. And I give these step-by-step processes, like key players you need to have, a timeline, even ways to market your event. And I'm excited about it because, I'm only one person. And so, what I don't have time to help everybody with all of their events, but there's so many people out there, and you know this, Linda, there's so many people out there that have incredible messages, incredible stories that really are going to help people if they can get that message out there. And so with that, as of May of this year, I'm going to have completed my very first event course, online course. It's $495, but for anybody that's listening today, we're going to give that to you for $97, which is great. So we're in a pre-sale right now. So if you just email me, Lindsey@CastlemanEvents.com, then I will give you that pre-sale code so you can purchase the online event course for only $97 when it comes out in May.
Oh, thank you, Lindsey. That is a fabulous gift. I hope many of our listeners take advantage of that.
Yes.
So, Lindsey, thank you for joining us today and sharing your story, sharing your journey, your outcomes, and all that you are doing. And I want to thank our listeners as well for taking the time out to share with us. And I hope that this has been helpful for you and you've learned something more about your story, your journey, and how you can move forward. Hope to see you tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.